Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. The three clowns on Sky News have been at it again. Again, with no consideration for the facts they have presented their biases with all of us to see. There is no hiding from their dedication to the conservative side of politics. There is no balanced view, nor are any understandings of the basic questions proposed by the recent referendum. They present a garbled, incoherent rant detailing their disdain for the Albanese government. Now here is our friend Rowan articulating his distinct bias in the most blatant and profound way possible.
We've got to get rid of Labor, get them out at the next election, get a coalition government in, and hopefully a better one than the last coalition government. So, congratulations to Chris Tafouli, who's the Queensland opposition, Liberal opposition. We slammed him very hard when he went in for the treaty, but he opposed the voice, and now he's opposed the treaty as well. So well done. That's the way for Liberals to go. It's called being in opposition. You oppose. That's what you do, and then you win. That's how you win government, guys.
Of course, the next issue, which occupies their minuscule and inconsequential minds, is how is the money used when so much of it is dedicated to Indigenous people? It kind of appears to be beyond these three caricatures that the whole purpose of the Voice referendum was to ensure that funding was directed in areas which would be determined by the First Nations people. The primary purpose of the referendum was to give Indigenous people the recognition they deserve via the Constitution and appropriate representation to those who make decisions regarding the funding requirements for Indigenous people. The point seems to have been lost on these three non-descriptive individuals. What more can I say? Of course, the next troubling issue seems to be treaty. This is because one of the most powerful disinformation campaigns promoted by the No campaign. That is, this whole discussion on treaty demonstrates the lack of understanding displayed by those arguing against treaties. Now, we need to understand that in most countries around the world, treaties were negotiated between the colonisers and those who are occupying the land before colonisation. Oh, I wonder who that might have been. In Australia, that simply did not happen. In Australia, the British did not engage in treaty talks. They never sought to negotiate with the owners of this land. Instead, they claimed that the land belonged to them and belonged to no one else. They didn't even acknowledge that Indigenous people existed here. So what would a treaty look like? The best explanation for this can be found in a conversation article posted prior to the referendum. I'm just going to quote some of it here. Australia has signed up to a range of international legal instruments that concern the rights of Indigenous people. These legal instruments set a clear standard for what makes an agreement or a treaty. A treaty must satisfy three conditions, and it's important that we understand this. A treaty acknowledges Indigenous people are a distinct political community different to others Australians. This is because Indigenous people are the only group of Australians who owned, occupied and governed the continent before colonisation. This recognition also acknowledges the historic and contemporary injustices that invasion has caused. Number 2, a treaty is a political agreement reached by a fair process of negotiation between equals. Negotiation helps ensure everyone's interests can be considered. But securing a fair negotiation process can be difficult. In Victoria, the First Peoples Assembly and state government have agreed to a treaty negotiation framework that sets out principles to guide treaty talks. Number 3, treaties involve both sides committing to responsibility, promises, and principles that that bind the parties in an ongoing relationship of mutual obligation and shared responsibility. Most importantly, while the outcomes of any negotiation will differ according to the parties, a treaty is built on the recognition of Indigenous peoples' inherent sovereignty. As part of this, a treaty will provide for some degree of self-government. What this looks like in practice will be worked out actually through the negotiation process. A treaty will also include a range of other elements. It could include financial compensation, return of land, formal recognition of historic wrongs, and symbolic gestures of reconciliation such as apologies. Treaties are unique agreements. As Professor Megan Davis explains, they are aimed at, quote, settling fundamental grievances and establishing binding frameworks of future engagement and dispute resolution. A treaty, therefore, is not something that should be feared, but should be celebrated, because it offers First Nations people their rightful place given the injustices which they have endured. Even though it is clear that the referendum was not referring to a treaty, Sky News could not let it go. I have stated many times on this channel that the referendum provided an opportunity for those who hold racist views to have the freedom to express them, and they have. That is what these three people on Sky News do, and it's shameful. So if you like what I have to say and you'd like to make some comments, please make some comments below, and please remember to subscribe to my channel. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and importantly, be safe.